She was the last of her kind, a rare pregnant Mustang mare who survived storms, starvation, and slaughter. But when she finally gave birth, something went terribly wrong. She collapsed, motionless. Vets rushed in, expecting death. But what happened next? No one, not even the most seasoned rescue teams, was ready for what they saw. Because this wasn't just a birth. It was a reckoning, a miracle, and a story that would leave the world questioning everything we thought we knew about survival and about love. The sun was merciless that morning, low but already searing, bleeding gold across the cracked earth. Officer Lila Denton almost didn't stop. From the road, it looked like another carcass. Maybe a deer, maybe a cow. This land swallowed strays all the time, but something made her slow. Maybe the shape of the ribs, too vertical for cattle. Maybe the silence. She parked, stepped out, boots crunching dry gravel. Flies buzzed thick over the form near the stream bed. What used to be a stream, now it was just dust and memory. The mare didn't move. Her coat, what was left of it, clung to her bones like wet paper, skin cracked at the flanks, tail dragging in the dirt. The kind of thing you look away from. Lila crouched slowly, hand instinctively resting near her radio, as if this fragile creature could lunge. But the eyes didn't blink. The nostrils didn't flare. There was no breath. Poor thing, Lila murmured, already reaching for her notepad. Just paperwork now. Just another loss. But then it happened. The belly twitched. Not gas. Not reflex. A pulse from the inside. It moved again, more deliberate this time, like a knee pressing outward, like life announcing itself through the shell of death. Lila froze. "Whoa," she whispered, suddenly breathless. Her training kicked in hard and fast. This mare wasn't just dying, she was pregnant. And somehow, still holding on. Within minutes, a call had gone out. Within an hour, a trailer was rumbling toward the forgotten creek bed. They brought water, glucose paste, a mobile sling, and prayers. The vet on site, Dr. Carson Wells, took one look and shook his head. "She's minutes from crashing. Foal's probably gone already." But as they leaned in, the movement came again, this time strong enough to see through layers of skin and filth. A push, then another, steady. Dr. Wells stared. "I've never seen anything like it." They slid straps under her frame, careful as whispers. It took 4 people just to lift her. She made no sound, didn't fight, but her belly moved, relentless, rhythmic, a heartbeat from within. Inside that dying body, something refused to give up. By the time they loaded her into the trailer, every hand was moving faster than protocol. Fluids were administered en route. They didn't name her. No one dared. You don't name a ghost. But Lila kept watching the belly, the movements, the will. "Come on, Mama," she whispered, pressing a hand gently to the rusted metal gate. "You made it this far. Don't leave now." And somewhere between the silence and the road noise, the mare's ear twitched, just once. But it was enough. The barn fell silent when they wheeled her in. Not quiet, silent, the kind that presses against your skin, heavy and reverent. No clattering hooves, no panicked neighing, just the sound of leather slings creaking under her weight, and the low hum of the IV pump, trying to do what her body couldn't. She didn't lift her head, didn't flick an ear. Her chest barely moved. The fluorescent lights above cast a sickly glow on the jut of her hips, the deep hollows beneath her ribs. Dirt clung to every inch of her, and her breath, when it came, was shallow like the ghost of a wind. Vet techs hovered, stunned into stillness. "Jesus," someone whispered. "How is she still alive?" Dr. Wells didn't answer. He was already sliding the stethoscope into place, jaw clenched. He moved from heart to lungs to belly, fingers light but fast. Nothing. Then something. A flutter, a hesitation. Then again, one heartbeat, faint. He shifted lower, and there it was, another, softer, fainter, but steady. His eyes snapped up. "We've got to." No one breathed. "She's crashing," he muttered, pulling back. But the foals hanging on. They worked without speaking. IV lines in, electrolytes, oxygen flow set low and constant, cooling blankets under the abdomen. Her temperature was erratic, swinging between too hot and too cold, like her body couldn't decide whether to fight or surrender. A tech named Morgan knelt by her head, wiping blood and dust from the mare's face with a damp cloth. She's not blinking. She can hear us, Dr. Wells said. They always can. Talk to her. Morgan leaned close. Hey mama, you've got a little one still with you. You're not done yet. Nothing. But then her lips twitched. Barely. Like a reflex, or maybe a choice. They trimmed the matted hair from her belly, cleared debris from her hooves. Every touch gentle, reverent, like tending a relic. A nurse tapped vitals into a tablet with fingers that trembled. She's running on fumes, someone said. No, Dr. Wells replied, eyes locked on the fetal monitor now glowing faint green. She's running on love. He didn't mean to say it out loud, but no one laughed. Not this time. Outside the wind picked up, rattling the barn door. Inside time felt strange, stretched thin, hanging between heartbeats. Then a sound broke through, a faint knock from within. The foal again. Morgan looked down. That baby's not giving up, and for a moment, neither did anyone else. They kept her in the quietest stall at the end of the barn, the one reserved for horses that might not see morning. No halter, no restraints, just soft pine shavings, IV drips, and the hush of people trying not to disturb death. The mare hadn't moved in 20 hours. Not when they changed her fluids. Not when Morgan whispered encouragements through the bars. Not even when a flashlight flicked across her vision. Her eyes stayed open, glassy and unblinking, like windows left ajar in an empty house. She hadn't made a sound, hadn't turned her head, hadn't acknowledged a single living thing. They'd tried carrots, soaked grain, warm mash spoon-fed with gentle hands. Nothing. She's locked herself in, Dr. Wells said quietly, just gone inward. It was Morgan who noticed first, when she walked in with the old Navajo pattern blanket folded over her arm. It wasn't clean. It had been stored in the feed shed for years, but it was soft and heavy, warm with sun. Something told her to bring it anyway. She stepped into the stall, careful not to startle, though the mare hadn't startled once since arriving. I brought you something, Morgan said softly, as she had said every hour since. No response. She knelt at the edge of the shavings, careful not to get too close, and began unfolding the blanket like a prayer. And that's when it happened. The mare's right eye fluttered, just once. Not wide, not dramatic, but real. Morgan froze. Her chest tightened, unsure if she'd imagined it. But then the eye shifted. Barely, but toward her. It wasn't light. It wasn't sound. It was the blanket. She called out without taking her eyes off the mare. Carson, come here. Now. Dr. Wells appeared at the doorway, stethoscope still looped around his neck. What is it? She blinked. Morgan whispered. He raised an eyebrow. From what? The blanket. He stepped inside, slow and skeptical. But the mare didn't shut down again. Her eyes stayed on Morgan's hands as she smoothed the wool against the bedding. You know that smell, Morgan murmured. More to the mare than anyone else. Sun, sweat, hay. Maybe you were born on one just like it. The mare didn't blink again, didn't move, but her breathing deepened. Dr. Wells checked the monitor, heart rates up by 4 beats. They didn't cheer, didn't dare, but Morgan slid the blanket closer, letting it touch the mare's flank, and this time the eye didn't glass over. It watched, no name, no sound, just one blink, but it was enough to keep trying. The storm rolled in like something ancient, slow, growling, electric. Thunder cracked across the sky in long, aching pulses that rattled every loose board in the barn. Rain pelted the tin roof like 1,000 tiny hooves galloping overhead. It was 2:17 a.m. when the monitor started beeping. Julian and Wren, both vet students on the graveyard shift, had been dozing in camp chairs near the feed room. At first, they thought the thunder had jarred the machine. Then they heard it, the low, strained groan from stall 12. The mare hadn't made a sound in 2 days. They scrambled up, adrenaline snapping them alert. Julian hit the stall light, but the bulb flickered once and died with a hiss. Power out. Wren grabbed the backup lantern from the hook and swung the beam low. She was on her side, legs stiff, flanks heaving. Her eyes wild now, awake, and full of something between terror and surrender. Her stomach rippled, another contraction. Oh no, Julian breathed. She's in labor. We're not ready, Wren said. She's not ready. But there wasn't time to debate. The storm howled louder, and the barn door banged open before slamming shut again. Somewhere down the hallway, a horse kicked its stall. The wind carried the scent of ozone and earth. The world felt stretched thin, like something sacred was about to break. Ren ducked into the stall, lantern held high. No gloves, no kit. We have to do this, Bear. Julian slid in beside her, dropping to his knees. She won't survive sedation. We go now. They moved on instinct, training forgotten. Only rhythm and need remained. The mare's body seized in another spasm. Her teeth clenched, eyes rolled white, and then just barely, she pushed. Ren's breath caught. I see hooves. Front first, good. Julian placed a hand on the slick legs as they emerged inch by inch. We've got presentation. Just hold on, girl. Please. The rain became deafening. Lightning cracked so close it lit the entire barn in ghost light for a breathless second. Dust lifted from the floor. The lantern flickered. The foal's head appeared, still wrapped in the birth sack. No time, Ren said. She ripped it open with shaking fingers, pulling the membrane away from the nostrils just as the foal slithered free onto the hay. Silent and still. Breathe, Julian whispered. Come on, little one. Breathe. Then a gasp, wet, shallow, but real. The foal moved. Julian laughed, half sobbed. We've got life. But then behind them, the mare let out one long exhale and stopped moving. Wait. No, Ren said, crawling back to her side. No breath, no blink. Still, the storm outside raged on, but inside, everything held still as death, until the newborn foal nudged forward and placed its tiny head against its mother's ribs. And just for a moment, barely there, a flicker under the skin, a heartbeat. The lantern's light danced wildly across the stall walls, shadows moving like ghosts. Thunder cracked again, louder this time, so close it made the floor tremble. The storm outside had found its twin inside, raw, electric, unstoppable. The foal lay motionless, still wrapped in the slick, glistening sack, legs curled tight, head tucked like a comma. Too still, too quiet. Steam rose faintly from the newborn's body, mixing with the heat of the mare's labor and the storm-churned air. Rip it, Julian said, already reaching. Ren didn't hesitate. Her nails tore through the membrane, fingers fumbling through the slime until she found the foal's nose and mouth. She cleared it with one swipe, then another. Come on, she whispered. Come on, little one. Nothing. Then, a twitch, a gasp, one fragile, ragged breath, and then another. The foal jerked its head slightly, shuddering as if waking from a long sleep. Legs kicked weakly against the straw, coated in birth fluid and trembling like leaves in wind. Julian exhaled, hand over his heart. He's breathing. A heartbeat later, the mare groaned. It was deep, long, final. Both students turned as her front legs buckled. She didn't fall, she folded, like a building giving up its scaffolding. Her massive body slumped sideways, chin hitting the straw with a dull, wet sound. Wait, no, Ren said, crawling to her side. No, no, no. Julian checked her gums. Pale, too pale. Her sides didn't rise, she didn't blink, and just like that, the stall felt colder. The foal, still slick with afterbirth, still not fully unfolded, lifted its head and released the softest whinny. A question, a cry, a sound that cracked something open in the space between grief and hope. She's crashing, Ren said. We need Dr. Wells now. Julian didn't move. He was staring at the foal. I think she waited. She held on until he came. Outside, lightning struck again, bright and brutal, lighting the scene like a snapshot from a dream. For a split second, everything was frozen in white. The mare collapsed, eyes dull, the foal beside her struggling to rise. Two students, soaked in sweat and stormlight, caught between life and loss. Then the dark returned. The barn creaked. Julian reached out, brushing the foal's soaked forelock aside. He's perfect. Ren leaned into the mare's neck, listening. I've got nothing. But the foal made another sound, a breathy nicker, and pressed his small body against her ribs. And just then, the mare's nostrils flared, barely, but they moved. Julian whispered, Did you see that? Ren leaned in again. Say that wasn't just me. Another twitch. Her flank rose, slight, shaky, but rising. She's not gone. Ren breathed. She was still fighting, and now she wasn't alone. For a long moment, no one moved. The lantern buzzed faintly from where it hung, its light flickering over damp wood, and two bodies sprawled in the straw, one too still, the other too new. Rain slammed the roof in heavy waves. Wind howled through the rafters like a warning, but inside stall 12, everything felt suspended, like the air had forgotten how to move. Julian crouched beside the mare, hand frozen mid-reach. Wren knelt at her head, stethoscope pressed to skin that no longer rose. Her fingers trembled. Her breath hitched. "She's not breathing," Wren whispered. But the words died in her mouth, because something shifted. In the shadows, the foal moved, a tremor first, then a stretch. One impossibly small hoof unfolded from beneath its slick body, then another. It grunted, a soft, broken sound more breath than voice, and began to twitch its ears, testing the world for sound it hadn't yet learned. Julian blinked hard. No way. The foal's legs kicked out once, then twice, scraping the straw like a swimmer breaking the surface. It rolled awkwardly onto its belly, legs tucked beneath it like bent twigs. Every motion was a fight, against gravity and logic and biology. Then with one great fragile effort, it tried to stand. It fell, hard. Wren winced, her instincts flaring, but the foal didn't cry. It simply lay there for a moment, gathering whatever invisible strength it had left, then tried again, and again. The third time it rose, not gracefully, not fully, but enough, wobbling on legs too thin to hold its weight, chest heaving, head drooping low from exhaustion, but upright, alive. The foal turned, blinking into the dim lantern glow, and then it stepped forward. Wren's mouth parted, but no sound came. No one dared speak. Even the other horses down the aisle had gone strangely quiet, as if the storm itself was holding its breath. The foal stumbled toward its mother. Julian reached out, uncertain whether to stop him or help, but the foal moved with purpose, slow, unsteady, but deliberate, step after step, dragging strength from some place only new life understands. He reached her side, and lowered his tiny head, gently pressing it to her chest, not nudging, resting. The moment held. A sound filled the stall, so soft it was almost imagined. Thump. Wren pressed the stethoscope back to the mare's ribs. "Wait," she whispered. Again. Thump. Thump. She's coming back." The foal didn't move. He just stood there, silent and still, as if his very presence was anchoring her to this world. Outside, thunder rumbled. Inside, a miracle began. Dr. Wells arrived soaked to the elbows, mud up his boots, breath fogging as he stepped into the stall. No one spoke. They didn't need to. One glance at the mare, the foal beside her still and watching, and he understood. This was one of those moments. The kind they didn't teach in vet school. The kind that lived somewhere between medicine and miracle. "Vitals?" he asked softly, kneeling beside Wren. "No breath, no pulse. But she moved," Julian whispered. Her flank lifted. "Once. We saw it." Wells didn't argue. He didn't doubt. He placed the stethoscope to her chest, cold metal against lifeless skin. Everyone leaned in. Nothing. Not a tick. Not a flutter. Just silence. Wren bit her lip. Julian lowered his head. Even the foal seemed to pause, frozen mid-breath, as if willing the sound into existence. Then badum, so faint, so soft, it might have been imagined. Wells held up a hand. Badum. Again, slower than it should be, weaker than it had to be, but real. "She's got a beat," Wells said, barely above a whisper. "It's there." The air shifted. Not celebration. Not yet. But something looser in the lungs. Relief with edges. The foal let out a tiny breathy nicker, and then, without drama, without warning, he folded himself down beside her. His legs bent like silk, collapsing into the straw, until his side touched hers. Not curled, not hidden, just there. Close, present, like he'd been born, knowing that being near her mattered more than anything else. Wells listened longer. "Steady now," he murmured. Still faint, but getting stronger. Wren blinked hard. Is that even possible? He didn't look up. No, not really. The mare's nostrils twitched again. Her tongue shifted inside her mouth. Then her ear flicked, slow, like waking from underwater sleep, and her chest rose, shallow, labored, but breath. "Hey there," Julian whispered, voice cracking. "Hey mama." The foal didn't react, just stayed pressed against her, breathing with her, matching her rhythm, as if tethered by something deeper than flesh. For a long minute, the only sounds were straw rustling, quiet breath, and the storm beginning to move on. The thunder grew distant, the rain slowed to a whisper. "She's not out of danger," Wells said finally, leaning back. "But she's not gone." They didn't cheer, they didn't move, they just watched as the mare's eye opened. Not fully, just a slit, but it looked at the foal, not through him, at him. And in that second, everyone in the room knew she wasn't fighting for herself, she was fighting for him. They tried everything. Warm goat's milk in a rubber bottle, fresh colostrum from a donor mare, even a gentle, older broodmare brought in from the next paddock, calm enough to tolerate a strange foal. But the baby wanted none of it. He nuzzled the bottle once, then turned away, sniffed at the other mare's flank, then let out a low, confused cry. He paced in small, wobbly circles around stall 12, back legs still unsure, searching for something only he could name. "She's not strong enough to feed him," Dr. Wells said, arms crossed outside the stall. "If he doesn't eat soon, he's waiting." Wren interrupted. "For her." Inside the stall, the mare hadn't stood since the birth. Her body was still too thin, too hollowed out from starvation and labor. But her eyes were open now, if only for a few minutes at a time, and always, watching him. The foal lay beside her again that night, curled tight against her ribs like a comma pressed into soft pages. When he whimpered, her heart rate climbed. When he cried, her oxygen ticked upward. When he rested, she did too. Julian noticed it first. "Every time he cries," he said, pointing to the monitor, "she fights harder." "Is that real?" Morgan asked. Wells just nodded slowly. "I've seen bond reactions before, but this was different." They tried again the next morning. A fresh bottle, hand-fed, gently warmed. Julian knelt beside the foal and offered it with quiet patience. The foal sniffed the rubber nipple, hesitated, then turned, stumbling straight back to his mother. "She's not making milk," Morgan said, frustrated. "There's nothing there. He doesn't understand." "No," Wren said quietly, kneeling beside the mare. "He does." The mare opened her eye again, blinking slowly, as if she'd heard. The foal let out a soft cry, and butted his head against her chest. The monitor beeped. Her heart rate spiked by 5 beats. Julian looked over. "Okay, that's not nothing." They brought in a warm towel, rubbed the mare's flank, massaged the udder gently to stimulate response. Nothing came, but still, the foal pressed close, determined. They offered the bottle again. He turned away. "She's the only world he knows," Morgan said softly. "And maybe," Wren added, glancing at the mare, "he's the only reason she's still in it." That night, they watched as he curled beside her once more. No milk, no nourishment, just touch, just presence. And again her vitals climbed. Not much, but enough. It happened on the third morning. The storm had passed, leaving behind a bruised sky and silence thick as wet wool. The barn smelled like wet hay, iodine and sleep deprivation. Stall 12 was still dark, still quiet, but something had changed in the air. Not big, not loud, just expectant. The foal was on his feet again, barely, legs shaking like saplings in wind. He hadn't eaten, not really, just pressed close to her side day after day, refusing everything they offered. Every instinct should have told him to move on, find another source, survive, but he didn't. He stayed, and now he was nudging her belly. It started soft, a hesitant push with his nose, more question than demand. Then again, firmer this time, a third nudge, followed by a breathy grunt as he steadied himself and shoved with all the strength his tiny body could give. Morgan had just entered with the morning meds. When she saw it, she froze. Wren, Julian, now. They rushed over, unsure what they were looking for, until the mare flinched. A tiny twitch, almost nothing, but her skin rippled where he touched her, like the nerves had finally remembered they existed. Julian's voice caught. "Did she just?" "She felt it," Morgan said, already stepping closer. The foal nudged again, determined now, one side, then the other. Each time, a little harder, not cruel, coaxing, pleading, and then, she lifted her head. Just a few inches, but enough. Her neck strained like it weighed more than her whole body. Her eyes blinked slowly, searching until they found him. The foal froze, then let out the softest whinny they'd ever heard. She answered, not with sound, but with touch. She leaned forward, weak and trembling, and nudged him back. Their muzzles met. The stall fell into a hush, so absolute it felt sacred. Morgan stepped back. We're witnessing something. She chose to get up. Wren whispered, not for us, for him. The foal snorted and leaned into her chest, curling once again into her ribs, but this time, she curled slightly too, as if her body remembered what to do, as if it finally had a reason to try. Julian blinked hard. I don't think we're feeding him anymore. They all looked at the monitor. Her heart rate, her temperature, her breathing, every number had shifted upward, slightly, alive, present, fed by something no chart could measure. She didn't lift her head again that hour, but she didn't lower it either. And when the foal tucked himself against her side, she reached out, just enough to rest her nose along his back. It wasn't just the foal who needed milk, she needed him, and now, she had him. 4 weeks, 28 days of blinking monitors, sleepless shifts, hand-mixed supplements, and whispered prayers, no one admitted to saying out loud. 28 days of watching her drift between worlds, tethered only by the touch of a foal who refused to leave her side. They named him Chance, not because it sounded cute, but because that's what he was. He'd begun walking on day 7, awkward, slow, with legs too long for his tiny body, but determined. Every morning, he'd rise first, stretch, pace, then nuzzle his mother, as if to say, come with me. She never did, until today. The barn was quiet, early enough that dew still clung to the windows. Wren was sweeping feed dust near the entrance, when she glanced back at stall 12 and dropped the broom. The mare was on her knees, front first, back legs trembling, trying to shift her weight into something upright. Her breathing was shallow, eyes half closed, but she was moving. Julian, Wren shouted, already sprinting. She's trying to stand. Julian and Morgan were there in seconds, hearts pounding harder than any monitor. They didn't help, didn't dare. They just opened the stall door wide and stepped back. The foal turned, startled by the rush of footsteps, but then stilled when he saw her. He let out a soft, confused whinny. Then he stepped forward and did what he'd done every morning since birth. He walked away, 1 step, then 2, and this time, she followed, slowly. So slowly, she pushed up from her knees, 1 trembling leg at a time. Her body wobbled, like scaffolding set against wind. Her tail flicked once, a motion they hadn't seen in weeks. Then without a sound, she took a step, just 1. Straw crunched under her hoof, like thunder in a cathedral. Julian exhaled. She's walking. 2 steps, then 3. Chance trotted ahead and turned, checking that she was still coming. She was, wobbly, fragile, but upright. She passed through the open stall door and into the barn aisle. For the first time since her rescue, light spilled across her silver coat in fractured streaks, highlighting the ribs still too visible, the scars still healing, the body that should have given up, but didn't. Other horses stirred in their stalls, heads lifting. A few snorted, 1 pawed the ground, but none made a sound. They just watched, as if they knew, as if they felt it. The walk lasted no more than 30 feet, just a slow stretch from one end of the barn to the other. But when she reached the far wall, she stopped beside her foal and without hesitation, lowered her head to his. It wasn't just a step, it was a return, a quiet declaration that said, I'm still here, and I'm not done yet. The name came quietly. No ceremony, no ribbon, just a whisper that settled into the barn like dust after a storm. It happened during evening rounds. The sun had dipped behind the trees, casting long gold shadows through the rafters. The mare had just finished her second solo walk, still slow, still uneven, but hers. Chance trotted circles around her, playful now, testing the space between dependence and freedom. Morgan leaned on the stall door, watching them with that look, the kind that only comes after you've witnessed something that changes the way you see the world. She needs a name, she said softly. She's more than just the mare. No one disagreed, but no one rushed either. You don't name something like her lightly. Julian glanced over from the feed cart. What about Hope? Wren shook her head. Too soft. Miracle, someone offered. Morgan gave a small laugh. She is one, but it's not enough. Doctor. Wells stepped into the aisle, towel over one shoulder, tablet in hand. He paused when he saw them all standing there, quiet, thoughtful. He looked into the stall where the mare stood, tall now, not strong yet, but present. Her coat had begun to fill in, the wounds were closing, the hollows softening, But it was her eyes that had changed most. They were no longer empty. She watched her foal like a sentinel, not just a mother, but a witness, a guardian, a survivor who had chosen to live when everything said she shouldn't have. Wells spoke gently, like he was saying it to himself more than anyone else. Reckoning. The word landed like a stone in water. Wren blinked. That's heavy. She is heavy, Morgan said quietly, not because of what happened to her, but what she did with it. Julian nodded slowly. Her body was done. Her heart wasn't. She stayed because he needed her. Wells added, and now she's changing all of us. They let the silence settle for a moment. Reckoning, not for what broke her, but for what refused to break. They etched it onto the whiteboard outside her stall that night. One word, no explanation, no fanfare, just a name. Inside, the mare lifted her head, as if she somehow knew. Chance was asleep beside her, legs tucked beneath his growing frame. She reached down, muzzle brushing the soft place between his ears. He didn't stir, but the rhythm of his breathing matched hers, and in that breath, that stillness, that undeniable presence, the name felt right. Reckoning, not a warning, not a threat, a truth. Because she hadn't just survived, she had reminded them of what love could do, of what willpower looked like, of what could rise from the edge of gone. And now that she had a name, she wouldn't be forgotten. It wasn't until week 6 that they learned the full truth about her body. She stood taller now, steadier. Her walks had become routine. Her appetite returned, but there were signs, subtle things that didn't add up. A hesitation when turning left, a slight lean on uneven ground, a flinch sometimes when shadows passed too close. So they brought her into the exam stall, took new x-rays, ran scans, checked the eye that never fully dilated. That's when they found it. She's blind on the left, Dr. Wells said, voice low, like he hated the words coming out of his mouth, completely. And at least 3 ribs were fractured, maybe more. They've started healing, but it's recent. And here, he pointed to her flank, where the coat had grown in uneven and thin, old wire scars. Wren murmured, barbed, deep. Julian exhaled slowly. She's been through hell. But Reckoning didn't seem bothered. She stood calmly in the sling, ears flicking toward their voices, eyes soft. When Chance trotted into the stall, she turned toward him immediately, head tilted, nose reaching, not with panic, with purpose. She knew he was there, always did. She memorized him, Morgan whispered, with her body. From that day forward, they noticed something else. She had a strange effect on the other animals, especially the injured ones. A gelding with a torn tendon that used to panic during treatment quieted the moment she was led past. A goat recovering from heat stroke pressed his head through the fence to watch her walk, and the foal watched it all. He stayed close, always close, not clinging, but tracking. When she stopped to sniff the wound on the gelding's leg, so did he. When she paused beside the feed room to greet the blind donkey, rescued last winter, he stepped forward too, small muzzle reaching for the same spot. He's learning from her, Julian said one morning, leaning on the gate. Not just how to be a horse, how to be something else. Wren nodded. She's more than a mother. She's, I don't know, a keeper of something. The word felt right, keeper, because Reckoning didn't just survive. She carried something now, a stillness, a knowing, not loud, not showy, but present in every step, every pause, every breath. They gave her the gentlest horses to stall near, the ones on the edge healing, fearful, unsure, and slowly something changed. Less pacing, softer eyes, ears that once pinned back now turned forward, and always that silver foal beside her watching, not just a shadow, a student, as if the world had given him not just a mother, but a guide through the kind of brokenness that doesn't leave visible wounds. And somehow, she made it look like grace. It happened just after feeding. The yard was restless, spring air thick with energy, hooves stamping, tempers short. 2 new rescues had been turned out for the first time, both stallions, both with something to prove. They'd come from separate cruelty cases, barely touched by gentleness, all sinew and scar tissue, and today, they locked eyes. It started with posturing, flattened ears, a sideways step. Then came the lunge, hooves striking out, teeth bared. The clash echoed through the barnyard like thunder against tin. Julian dropped the feed bucket. Hey! Wren sprinted for the gate, grabbed the hose. Morgan reached for the air horn, not again, but before any of them could act, the foal moved. Chance had been grazing in the shade, beside Reckoning, tail flicking lazily, still half colt and half wonder. When the fight broke out, he shot upright, ears pricked, body rigid, and then, without warning, he bolted straight into the fray. "No," Ren shouted. "Chance, too late." He skidded to a halt between the two stallions, his high, piercing cry slicing through the barnyard like a flare. It wasn't a whinny, it wasn't fear, it was grief, a sound so raw it made everyone freeze, even the horses. The stallions paused, just for a heartbeat, ears twitching, confused, and then, Reckoning stepped forward. No halter, no lead, no command, just calm. She crossed the yard at a slow, deliberate pace, every step grounded, deliberate. Her blind side faced the chaos, but she never faltered. The crowd watching from the fences fell silent, even the wind stopped. She reached Chance first, touched her muzzle to the trembling space between his shoulders. He let out one final cry, then fell silent. Then she turned, first to the darker stallion, ears pinned, breath ragged. She didn't snap, didn't rear. She simply stepped close and rested her nose against his heaving ribs. He didn't move. Then the other, head high, muscles tight. She touched him too, not in dominance, not in warning, in recognition. A moment passed, another, and something broke. Not in her, in them. The stallions blinked, shifted weight. One dropped his head, the other turned away. No more teeth, no more hooves, just breath, just space, just quiet. Reckoning stood between them, unmoving. Morgan whispered. She stopped it. Ren swallowed hard. "I think," she reminded them what it feels like to be seen. The foal pressed against her side, body still quivering, but calmer now. The fight was over, not with force, not with fear, with presence. Reckoning turned, led her foal away, and never looked back. She didn't win, she didn't dominate, she disarmed. She went quietly. No thrashing, no panic, just a long, slow exhale under a cottonwood sky. The kind of passing that doesn't break things, but softens them, like water smoothing stone. It was spring again, almost exactly 3 years to the day she arrived. The staff had noticed she was slowing, moving less, eating slower. Not sick, just winding down. She'd earned it. That morning she lay in the pasture, legs folded neatly beneath her, the breeze lifting her forelock, just enough to show that blind eye still half open, still watching. Chance stood beside her, no longer small, no longer trembling, a silver gold stallion now, tall and sure, with the same quiet gravity in his bones. He didn't call out, didn't cry, he just stood still, and when Reckoning let go, he lowered his head and touched his nose to hers one last time. No drama, no sound, just presence. As always, the ranch fell quiet that day. Every horse, every dog, every hand on the property moved slower. Even the birds seemed to perch longer on the fence rails, like they knew. Dr. Wells buried her beneath the old oak behind the rehab barn, the one where she used to nap in the heat with Chance curled at her side. They didn't mark it with a cross or a plaque, just a carved wooden beam with one word burned into the grain, Reckoning below it, in smaller letters. She gave more than life, she gave direction. The ranch changed after that. Chance remained untouched by halter or saddle, not wild, not tamed, just his own. He didn't spook, didn't bite, but when new horses arrived broken and afraid, he came to them, first with distance, then with stillness, then with breath. It was like watching her walk again. He'd stand beside a shaking colt, or a blind mare, or a gelding that wouldn't eat, and wait, sometimes for hours, and when he nickered, softly low in his chest, something always shifted. Fear loosened, eyes blinked, and healing began. Morgan started calling him the shadow teacher. Ren said he was the last piece of Reckoning left behind, so they built something around him, a pasture just for the misunderstood, the rescues who didn't bounce back, who didn't trust the world enough to try, and they named it what it had always quietly been, Reckoning's Reach. People came from states away to see it, not for tricks, not for shows, but for a feeling, for proof that once, a skeletal mare on the edge of death had chosen to stay for her foal, and ended up saving dozens more just by being who she was. And in the quiet mornings, when fog hangs low and hooves crunch softly in the dewy grass, you can still hear it, that slow, deliberate walk, that breath shared between hearts, that legacy that doesn't end, because it never tried to be loud, it just tried to be true. If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Share it with someone who still believes in quiet strength, in the power of presence, in the kind of love that doesn't need words to be heard. Because Reckoning didn't just leave behind a legacy, she left behind a reminder that even from the edge of gone, something beautiful can still rise. Subscribe for more true stories that restore your faith in resilience, redemption, and the unspoken bonds that change everything. Share this with someone who needs a reason to keep going. Comment with what you took away from Reckoning's journey.